The drama on Cardano continues. We've got a leaked proposal that has just made its way around Twitter, over 135,000 impressions. And it basically highlights the fact that a brand new platform aiming to be a decentralized VC arm for funding projects on Cardano is aiming to request 200 million ADA as a part of the upcoming Voltaire era or governance era, where anybody can submit a proposal or governance action for the Cardano community to vote on. Now, as you guys can imagine, that's a lot of ADA. I believe that's about 14 million, or excuse me, 14% of the total value of the current treasury, which sits at about 1.5 billion. And as a part of today's video, I want to basically highlight what things we know, what things we don't know, and what sort of conversational environment this really opens us up to as a Cardano community. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. Boy, oh boy, seems like Cardano never fails when it comes to new highlights in the community, drama, and just so much going on. So I'm just hitting record. The last time we had something similar to this was when Rick McCracken had posted that he supported Polygon or Matic. He left that in his bio, and a lot of the Cardano community basically went haywire asking Rick, why are you promoting another network, especially as you're a member of the ICC? Now, if you've somehow missed this entire debacle, there's a new platform, or a new proposal, I should say, that was released by a team called 3UTXO, and they're aiming to be a decentralized VC arm for Cardano. Now, the thing here is that they basically had a proposal that was leaked. I'll walk you guys through the entire sort of timeline here. And that's basically caused a lot of concerns, given the fact that in this leaked document, which, to be fully transparent, is 6 months old, the team at 3UTXO basically put up 200 million ADA as their requested amount from the Cardano treasury. Now, for those of you that are not aware, Voltaire kicks in just a couple of days, actually. We've got the Chain hard fork going live, the hard fork initiation date set to September 1st. We should have a final check-in by the Intersect committee, just to make sure that everything is a go, that stake pool operators feel okay, centralized exchanges feel okay, dApps, builders, and basically that the entire ecosystem is ready to go. Once that happens and the ICC is put in place, the interim constitutional committee is in place, it's basically up to them to verify or to confirm the constitutionality of a particular action. But then it falls on the ADA holders, DREPs, and potentially SPOs, depending on what types of actions, to actually vote those things through or to deny them. So without any further ado, let's maybe just jump straight into sort of the background here. And then I want to talk about governance and the fact that even with a lot of this drama going on, this does start a great conversation, which is how the treasury should be managed moving forward and what the community has to do when there's going to be disagreements just like this. Because one thing that I can mention is that this will definitely not be the last time that we have something like this happen. So without any further ado, this was released by Esco, Web3. He's pretty big here in the space. He's, I believe, really heavy into the NFT scene, but he posted this here stating, Cardano backroom grift, 200 million ADA at stake. No, it's not about me, it's about us. Now, to be fully fair, again, this is a 6-month-old document. There's been no evidence that this is, in fact, a grift or people trying to just take liquidity from Cardano, but they are asking for a huge amount. To also give some credibility to the 3UTXO team, they've just done a live stream with Cardano with Paul, and they basically broke down some of the questions that they've been receiving and answered some actually from the live stream itself. So I'll leave the link to that down below. These are members that have contributed to other projects. We've got Florian, who I believe is co-founder of Noom. We've got Yori, who I've had on the channel here from Waffle Capital. We've got Simon as an advisor from Cerberus. There's members from Claymates. There's, I think, mentions of Pi Laningham from Sunday Swap. Basically, the biggest and brightest minds have come together to put this proposal, which wouldn't be going through Catalyst, but it would actually be going through the official Cardano treasury through governance, to basically start a decentralized VC arm to invest in Cardano specific projects. Now, again, let me know what you think down below. This is by no means a shot at the individuals who are putting 3UTXO together. Obviously, we want the best for Cardano, and that's all that they're trying to do, right? Is basically put together a solution to a problem that we all know that we have here in Cardano, which is a lack of venture capital interest, but then just generally speaking, available capital or liquidity for projects that have shown that they're maybe ready to go to the next level. So that's really what 3UTXO was supposed to be or is supposed to be. And we're going to be hearing actually from this team, I believe, at the upcoming Cardano Summit. So again, check out that interview with Paul. A lot of insights coming in from there. But that said, let's jump into Esco's tweet here and then just some of the different things that have come about. So Esco basically highlights this first page here. Again, I've got no idea how he even obtained this document, but it talks about the problem being that we need more developers here in the ecosystem. The fact that there just aren't enough well-funded projects in Cardano. It talks about more Dapp users and then the need for more venture capitalists or more VCs. It also talks about their solution, which highlights the fact that VCs are risk adverse. So they basically be stepping in and bringing along other VCs, but then they would also have capital themselves to directly invest as a VC. They talk about stability, which will attract developers, and the fact that there's missing liquidity after Project Catalyst. And while I'm even just thinking about this here, this was one of the main questions to the team at 3UTXO was like, why not use Project Catalyst for something like this? Why do we need a separate VC arm, especially on top of the fact that we have Emergo? So for anybody who isn't aware, we've got IOG who focuses on the research and development. We've got the Cardano Foundation, which is a non-profit organization whose job it is to basically just spread the word and awareness about Cardano. And then we have Emergo, which I believe is a for-profit business who basically is stepping in as the business development arm for Cardano, or quote unquote, the VC arm, investing in certain projects, making bridges or building bridges by partnering with different protocols, etc. Most recently, Emergo actually partnered up with GSR to provide market making services and liquidity to Cardano-based projects. There's been a lot of other partnerships that have come out from Emergo, especially in the last like 4 to 5 months. But again, just to sort of add to this, people are like, well, if we already have Emergo, why do we need 3UTXO? Moving over to the next post here again, which was done by Esco. He basically highlights the fact that this team has officially requested, or again, this is 6 months old, did officially request 200 million ADA. And it states here as a grant when Voltaire is live. Now, during the live stream earlier today, the team cleared up that this would not be a grant. In my understanding, a grant, you don't have to pay back. But if this is not a grant, they would basically still be held liable for the funds. But their goal is to basically take whatever the initial investment is, invest that into different projects, take, I believe it's 90% of that to reinvest back into 3UTXO, and then have 10% of the profits from the projects that they incubate going back to the Cardano treasury. Now, for a lot of people, they read that as 90% going back into the pockets of the founders and the team members of 3UTXO. I don't believe that's the case here, but I'm more than happy to basically be corrected about any of this because I'm just looking from the outside in. Again, this is not a dig at any of the members that have participated in this particular draft proposal. But what I think that this does is really begin to stir the pot and to start the conversation ahead of Chang and ahead of Voltaire, because one thing that you can definitely bet on is that this will not be the last time that we have people asking for large amounts to come directly from the Cardano treasury. The treasury currently has, I believe it's 1.5 billion ADA. This request is asking for about 13 or 14% of that, again, 200 million ADA. Now, Florian did mention earlier on the live stream with Paul that they are open to reducing that number, but I believe the lowest amount that they've mentioned was 50 million ADA. Now, again, a lot of people within the community are asking, why do we even need to give you guys that much to start off with? Why don't we just give you maybe 1 million ADA? You show us that you can make that work, and then we sort of expand as we go. And I'm actually a pretty big backer of that particular thought because, again, there's a lot at stake here. Crypto is still down. Altcoins are down, whether or not we want to admit it. And the fact that we'd be basically adding $200 million worth of ADA selling pressure to, the ecosystem already, that's a pretty big risk. So again, I think that's where a lot of people aren't really jiving with this particular proposal. And the crazy part is like, I feel like I'm just laying down the foundation here. We haven't even gotten to the meat of the content. So let me hurry up and pick up the pace here. Now, they talk about the different deal sourcings, investment processes, etc. And then there is a highlight. Let me see if I can actually find it here of different members who are participating for this draft proposal. Again, this is 6 months old. We did hear that Adam Dean, who's now a member of the ICC, will not be participating or supporting 3UTXO. And I believe it's Andrew Westberg has mentioned that from like a time perspective and conflict of interest that he'll be stepping aside. One thing that the guys from 3UTXO did mention is the fact that they will not be using the funds to invest in their own personal projects. Again, Florian has ties back to Noom. Yori has ties back to Waffle Capital. Andrew ties back to Noom. Adam Dean supports various projects, including, I believe, Drip Drops. Long from MinSwap, Pi from Sunday Swap, and then Ben from M Labs. So as you can see, I mean, these are all some of the biggest minds here in the ecosystem. It'd be a huge conflict of interest to give them a huge amount of funds and then to have them basically reinvest that directly into their own projects. So at least we're able to get some alignment on that particular front. Now, there's just been so many people that have been vocal about this. And again, this, in my personal opinion, had really good intentions, right? But the fact that this was leaked prematurely, the fact that the team basically had to come out and talk about things that they weren't necessarily ready to talk about just yet, appears to have left a really bad taste in some people's mouth. Now, Hosky has been extremely vocal here in the last couple of hours, basically taking a lot of digs at the 3UTXO team, letting them know that we don't need a decentralized VC arm in Cardano. That's why we have Voltaire in the actual treasury, and all of the different governance actions in place is for just that alone, right? For the community to be in charge, to say yes or no to any of the available proposal actions that are submitted through the governance or the Voltaire process. So let me know what you think about that. I mean, do you agree? I definitely see the point there. You know, what's the point of taking 200 million ADA or whatever the amount is, moving that to a separate sort of entity or group to allow for them to do what we could basically be doing through Voltaire or through the chain hard fork. So that is a valid point. Now, in terms of people sort of just doubting the team's background, again, I'm not here to take personal shots at anybody. I know that a lot of people in this space are, you know, trying to build their own brand, their own reputation. I'm one of them as a creator, and that's really not what I'm here for. So I'll let you sort of take a look at that, and if you want to, you know, add these people's backgrounds to the factor or to the equation, you can go ahead and do that. But for now, I'm going to keep this out of the conversation. So just generally what I think about this, right? The fact that we have governance coming along, there will be big proposals like this that come in and day out. It will be up to the Constitutional Committee to be that first layer or that first barrier, right? After they basically done their job and they've said, hey, this is constitutional or this is not, it's then up to DREPs, ADA holders, and potentially stake pool operators to vote on whatever action is up for vote or is up to vote against. And so this is a clear example of if this were to have potentially made it through the ICC, we would need everybody who holds ADA to basically have their voice heard. And if something did get passed, there's no takebacks. Similarly, if something fails, there's no takebacks, but I believe that the team can re-propose again. But I believe there's also a fee that's associated with proposing. That way people aren't just spamming the system and just doing whatever it is that they want to do. So I want to highlight a couple of different tweets here. Again, Hosky has been super vocal, super vocal. But one that stood out was, again, the fact that like 3UTXO is coming out and being that decentralized arm. And we've obviously got Emergo that's doing the same exact thing. So Emergo hasn't come out and said anything. Will they? I don't actually think so, just because, again, this is just a little bit of community drama. But it is a good point. It is a good point. One other thing that was noted by Stake with Pride is that a lot of people are basically treating the Cardano treasury as some sort of slush fund or some sort of, you know, insurance policy. I'm not even sure what the right word is here, but keep in mind, every single user of ADA has contributed to the treasury. That's because a portion of the fees that we generate by using the network goes back to bolster the treasury. So theoretically, that could be seen as a form of tax, right? So we're all considered as taxpayers here if you use the Cardano ecosystem or the network. you're taxed. That goes back to the treasury. So you basically have a say in how that treasury should be spent. Now, another good point that has been made by Andrew Westberg from Noom is the fact that like we have to spend these funds. Now, granted, I think if they were asking for a little bit less and that they would have actually come out on their own terms and basically put this out, people would have been a lot more receptive. But the fact that like people saw 200 million ADA, people saw the 90-10 revenue split, right? Again, the 90 isn't going back to the founders or the people that are running 3UTXO. It's going back to 3UTXO so they can reinvest, right? So like little things like that, right? The fact that the team didn't really get to flesh out all of their prior history and that they basically were still working on the proposal when this was leaked really, really made it hard for them to sort of fight against a lot of the FUD that was coming at them. And so I'm really just trying to present you guys the facts here, and you as the community or as a community member, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about how this should actually go moving forward. And again, this comes back to a point that all of us know we have to fix in Cardano, which is liquidity. But how do we do that? And so one question that has come about is like, well, we already have Project Catalyst. Why do we need these guys? The guys from 3TXO basically state that after people get funding from Catalyst and they have potential, it's really hard to get an initial or an additional round of funding, which I can totally understand. However, Project Catalyst has been doing just that. And this is one argument too that has been going around, which is Project Catalyst awards 50 million ADA in each round. Funding round number 12 just wrapped up. 50 million ADA was awarded to 250 projects. Now, the team from 3UTXO, again, these are old numbers, but we haven't seen an updated number, so I don't know what else to actually talk about. Requested 200 million ADA, which would basically be 4 full rounds of Project Catalyst. And if you basically take some of the previous numbers with around 200 to 300 projects being funded per Project Catalyst round, that would be anywhere, to just about 1,000 projects to 1,200 projects that could potentially be funded through Catalyst with that same amount of capital. So do you think that that's fair that, one particular group gets the ability to control those funds? Or do they need to basically sort of step back, go back to the drawing board and then repropose? Either way, it sounds like the team will still be pushing through with this idea. I think the biggest thing here that was a concern for me personally was the fact that we heard from the 3UTXO team that like this is not their full-time thing. So if this isn't full-time, I think they have to scale back maybe what they're asking for until it is full-time. And I say that because operating a project is already a lot of work. And then operating something as big as this with 200 million ADA on the line presents a huge and a massive risk, not only to those projects and the projects that those people are running, but just to the greater ecosystem. If those funds don't produce like they're expected to, I mean, imagine how much of an impact that's going to have on sentiment and then even just marketing moving forward. Like no one is going to trust something like this ever again for as long as we can see. So that's really my biggest concern is like, if this team is really going to ask for these funds, they have to be able to commit a fully dedicated team that'll be working on this 24/7 to make this come to life. You take a look at, for example, IOG, like they have full-time staff. Take a look at Emergo. They have full-time staff that only work for Emergo, and same thing for the Cardano Foundation. So to have something as big as this, where people are maybe just contributing part-time or contributing for free, is my sort of biggest concern. I'd like to see more hard commitment, but I understand that at the end of the day, their idea is to try to fix and to try to uplift the Cardano ecosystem. So this video went in a completely different direction. I ended up basically just ranting here, but I wanted to bring this out and to really highlight a lot of the different tweets that have come about. And maybe I'll just close out with this one here, which came in from Matthew Capps, who I believe actually works with the IOG team for content creation. But he basically said, hey, after getting this, sort of proposed or this draft proposal, we need to make sure that vetting is good for these proposals. Now, there's a difference between vetting and fudding, right? If you're just attacking people without necessarily wanting to hear what they have to say, that is considered FUD versus you genuinely asking because you want to better understand. So I think we have to draw that distinction. Number two, it's also good to have an environment where people aren't afraid to socialize ambitious proposals that they might have or that may be bad. I'm not sure exactly what he means there by that last piece. But we have to have people that want to dream in this ecosystem. If we don't, who's going to be the visionary, So people definitely have to step up, take risks, but I think they have to be calculated risks in that they have to also be ready for criticism, right? So I think it's a two-way street. Projects and proposees have to be super ready for criticism and grilling because people want to make sure that Cardano treasury funds aren't getting spent, left and right. But then number two, the projects need to make sure that what they're proposing, or the proposers need to make sure that whatever they're proposing aligns with the community sentiment and that the value add is clear for everybody, right? So that's really the biggest thing. And as I end out here, again, my thoughts are all over the place today. I wanted to mention that the way that Catalyst is currently set up, there's no way for Catalyst funds to be used to then somehow generate additional funds back into the treasury. So that is one of the hiccups right now with Catalyst. It's sort of a exit flow, but there's nothing that is being regenerated to sort of replenish the treasury, which is where Project Catalyst funds actually come from. So this would be sort of one of the key distinctions here with 3UTXO, is that they'd actually be regenerating funds back into the treasury, but then the majority back into themselves so that they can keep their model continuing. So this is it here. I mean, it's crazy how quickly time flies. I just ranted, but I wanted to highlight this here. This has been a big, big, big topic here for discussion. And it really opens up the door as to how things should be managed with governance moving forward. And if you're not already participating, this is the perfect time to go ahead and get ready to do so. So check out the Intersect MBO, whether you're a single member or a member of a project, and you can get, involved. You can talk about how do we go about doing this to where proposees don't feel like they're being attacked, while the Cardano community feels like they're able to properly vet and ask questions without feeling like they're prying or intruding or whatever the case is that they might be doing. But that'll do it here for today's video. I'd love to hear your opinion down below. Let me know what you think. Again, it's like not a single day goes by in Cardano without drama, and today's no different with 3UTXO. I'm sure that they'll make it. I'm looking forward to hearing more about them and their presentation at the upcoming Cardano Summit. That will do it here for today's video. Again, if you found this to be helpful or insightful, or maybe just started off a nice general conversation, please make sure to smash that thumbs up. If it's your first time stopping by Dapp Central and you want more content like this, highlighting everything going on in Cardano, consider subscribing. And last but not least, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, then leave a comment down below.